All right, Brandi Davis, how's it going?
It's going good. How about yourself?
Good, good. Everything is good. You got a pretty interesting story.
Yeah, I can say that.
You've been through quite a bit.
Yeah, I've been through my life challenges for sure.
Definitely. Well, I just thought we would kind of take it all the way back and just get to know you for the people who don't. Where are you from and what was it like for you growing up?
I am from Detroit, Michigan. I was born and raised in Detroit. Growing up for me, for people that don't know, growing up in Detroit back in like the 80s and 90s, it was kind of more so of I come from a hustling state, a city. I could say city because at first they had like the car industry was real big. We had the Ford, GM, Chrysler there, so everybody was kind of like blue collar, and then outside of that, typically it was a city full of hustlers. So I was born and raised I come from a family of hustlers. Let's put it that way. My dad was a hustler growing up. I lived a good life. We lived in the suburbs. I went to private school. Um, Everything was great. My father went to prison though back in the 90s. I had my first kind of experience of childhood trauma when the feds raided our house. I was in middle school getting ready for school in the morning, and the federal agents kicked the door in with all these guns and stuff drawn. And my dad ended up going to prison for like, I think he was sentenced to 5, but he did like 36 months off of that.
How old were you when you found out that your dad was selling drugs?
Pretty much when that happened.
Oh, okay.
I knew my dad was not the type he always believed in protecting his family. So growing up, I thought my dad did real estate. He owned a lot of properties, and we used to go with him to the properties. He fixed them up. He owned 2 apartment buildings. So I figured my dad was like in real estate. He left early in the morning, came back in the evening. He wasn't a guy that hung out late at night. So I pretty much thought my dad was the typical, business owner, entrepreneur, working guy.
And how did your family, like your dad selling drugs and, being involved in everything?
It was different back then. Like, the typical drug dealer wasn't like what people would perceive today. You get what I'm saying? Like, my father and his friends, they wore suits. They dressed nice. It wasn't like no, they wasn't on the corner selling drugs or anything like that. So I really never noticed that part or felt like I was a part of that because my dad really carried himself as a businessman. So, like I said, Detroit is a hustling town, and pretty much everybody I grew up with that's older now, our parents did the same thing. A lot of his friends, children, and me and my siblings, we all grew up together like family. So to me, nothing stood out or was awkward because we all lived the same type of lifestyle. Everybody that we grew up with. So it was like, it was our norm.
Okay. Okay. Now your house gets raided.
Mm-hmm.
This goes down. Your dad's in jail.
Mm-hmm.
How does your life change? Now everybody must know now
Yeah, I think it was
what's going on.
a thing that parents talked about in the neighborhood because like every year, like we grew up in a nice house, in-ground swimming pool, everything. So like every year at the end of the school year, my father would throw this big barbecue. So like all the kids in the neighborhood, they coming over eating and swimming and things like that. So I think more so the adults kind of in their mind, from the cars we were driving and things like that, probably figured my dad was doing something, but it really was not really a known thing amongst the kids. Now my sister, she's 5 years older than me. So the guys that were her friends then used to say stuff to her like, you know what your daddy do for a living? But she like, no, or whatever. And they'll say like, oh, your daddy sell drugs. But they wasn't saying it in a negative way. It was more as admiration, like, oh crap, like your dad getting money because he used to drive Mercedes. He was nicely dressed, drive all the latest cars. So even when my dad went to jail, our lifestyle didn't change. Like we still lived in the same house. Like nothing changed. Like he made sure my mom was good before he went to prison. So my life was still the same way it was. We was just missing my dad.
How does school change for you?
Um, it was some people, I'm not gonna lie, some people was acting funny, but maybe because their parents might have been like, oh, they'll stay from over there and things like that. But I was angry at first, but at the end of the day, your parents is your parents, and I love my father, so I more so was on the side defending him. I didn't feel sad or anything about that. I just didn't like when people spoke negative about my father. I get offended and be ready to fight type of attitude.
Were you getting good grades in school?
Yeah, I got good grades in school. Me and my
What,
sisters,
what,
we all did really well in school.
what were you like in high school?
Okay, so my dad was home, he had did his prison bid when I was in middle school, so high school he was home. And like I went to private school, Catholic school. And for me, I know my dad was real big on grades, going to college. Like he had set up goals for us. So I learned early that if I do the things that I was supposed to do that appease my dad, I didn't really have strict parents. So high school for me, I did my work, you know what I'm saying? Made sure I did good in school, but I was running the streets. Like early, 16, I was dating a guy 26. I kind of jumped off the porch a little early. But like I said, I really didn't have strict parents, so as long as I did my work and my grades was good and stuff like that, they pretty much was cool.
At what point did you actually get involved in the streets and everything?
Like my friends, like guys, like say for example, remember I just told you how I grew up with friends whose fathers was in the game too. So we all grew up together because our fathers did the same thing. So a lot of the boys that we grew up with whose fathers were drug dealers end up being drug dealers themselves. You know, they did their own hustling when they got older. So those were guys I knew all my life. So like at one point weed was real popular in Detroit. A lot of dudes made a lot of money off of weed. And they used to have to get the weed from Arizona, but they used to have to get the money to Arizona. So like those is my homeboys. So they'll pay me and I'll get a couple of my friends and we'll fly on an airplane and fly the money to Arizona, so they can get their weed. So that's really pretty much was my first little wave of dibbling, dabbling in the streets and making my own little money. And now I think of it like it was cool, the money, but I really didn't do it for the money part of it. I did it because it was my homies. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, well, if they need to do something, if I can help them, I'm gonna help them. But I'm benefiting off of it as well.
Now, during this time, did you hear of BMF or did you know of
No,
BMF?
no, BMF. I don't know. Everybody has this thing. BMF really didn't start to be BMF until like 2003. A lot of them guys, like I said, it was just a group of dudes getting money. Like that BMF label came at the end when he started a record label. It wasn't like, oh, all back in the day in Detroit, it wasn't nothing like that. That was established later on.
Well, what about like the 50 Boys? And was that a
That's
thing
how
or?
you got to think about it. I'm 42. They like 54 years old. So back in the day when those dudes were getting money, I was a kid. They're like in their 50s. I'm 42. So I can't really per se speak on something like that because I was a child back in the day when all that stuff was going on. I think when y'all watch the show, it got the timelines messed up. No, really. Like it's not 100% true. You know what I'm saying? So I think the kind of people be confused on the timeline, because it's based on true stuff, but it's still a TV show. You get what I'm saying?
I hear you.
So
For sure.
yeah,
Okay, now I seen that your dad bought you your first Rolex at 13.
I was. How old was I? My sister. Yeah, I was like 13, 14 years old. It's like my dad when he used to buy us stuff. Whatever he bought my mom, he bought. He only had 3 daughters. We was his only children. So whatever he bought my mom something, he'd buy us something too. It wouldn't be as grand as my mother's, but it'd be nice. Like she probably got a AP and then we got Rolexes. You know what I'm saying? So we'll get the same good gift, but it just wouldn't be as big as my mom's. My dad took care of, like, we was his little ladies. Like he had my mom, he had 4 ladies and 4 girls in the house, my mom and 3 daughters. So he spoiled us. I mean, people look at it and it's crazy because people look at it like, wow, but to me it was like normal.
Now, I guess you were dating a guy at one point and a shootout happened?
Yeah, when I was a teenager. Like, y'all don't, Detroit is a crazy city. Like, things happen all the time like that. And I guess when you're raised around it, it's like normal. Like shootouts, like every time you go to a club, if you out at a bar or something, you be like, come on, y'all, we going to have to leave out of here at 1:30. Don't stay into 2 because we knew somebody was going to be shooting. Like, people get money in Detroit, but it still got the grimy and the gritty parts.
Okay. So in 2000, you moved to Atlanta.
Yeah, I went to school. Like my dad told me he'll pay my bills and he make sure I'm good as long as I go to school. So I was like, all right, well, I want to go to school in Detroit. I want to go to school in Atlanta. So we went down there. We picked me out an apartment, and I started attending Morris Brown in 2000, the fall of 2000.
And then, what's it like for you moving to Atlanta?
I had visited Atlanta prior to me moving down there when I had to come down. I came down for the Super Bowl. I think the Super Bowl was, yeah, it was the Super Bowl was in Atlanta in 2000. So I visited there, and then I came back to look for me an apartment. So for me, Atlanta was like different because Detroit was like clubs close at 2. You know, you kind of got to be on your P's and Q's at home. It's like in Atlanta, it was like everybody was getting money. Everybody was partying together. And it's like you can party to 6 o'clock in the morning. So when I came to Atlanta, it was kind of like a culture shock, but in a good way. Because all these black people and like people got money and the celebrities and the rappers party with the regular people. It was just like a big melting pot. So I loved Atlanta from when I first moved here.
At one point, do you meet BMF and come across them?
It wasn't that I met them. We grew up. Like one of my friends was dating, his mom was dating T. We lived around the corner from each other. So it's like, I didn't look at them like that because we were kids, but the kids grew up together. So once we were at age, we linked up in Atlanta, but I linked up with my friends that was my age, which was part of the crew because, you know, that's like family, but that was 2000 when everybody was down here. I just linked up with my friends from Detroit because we was old enough to hang out now.
What was partying like that at that point?
Shit, it was crazy. I mean, it was like a whole Atlanta was like that though. You get what I'm saying? Like you wouldn't be able to separate who was getting money, like who was the rappers, the drug dealers, the athletes. Everybody looked the same. You know what I'm saying? Like they all partied together. Like the bottles, the jewelry, the cars. Like Atlanta was crazy. Like you used to pull up to a spot in Atlanta and all you see is Lambos, Bentleys, like every car you can think of. Like the whole front is looking like that. And you don't know who it is. It could be an athlete, it could be a street dude, it could be, you know what I'm saying, a rapper, it could be anybody. But it's like Atlanta was just a big melting pot. Like everybody, even from other states, would come party in Atlanta. So it could be dope boys from other states. Everybody came to Atlanta to party around that time. Because like I said, you could party to 6 in the morning. Like the old 112, like used to stay open. We used to leave out of 112 and the birds is chirping. Like all that stuff isn't around anymore, but like Atlanta it was 24-hour city.
And now that you're doing all this partying, you know, are you still getting good grades? You know.
Well, actually, at the beginning, I didn't balance it out well. I withdrew from Morris Brown my first semester because I was partying so much. But my dad was like, I don't give a damn what you do, but your ass gonna go to school. So I met a girl, and she was in mortuary school. It's a mortuary school called Gupton Jones in Decatur down here. So I was like, I like science, you know. I like science a lot. So I'm like, what school you go to, girl? Because I knew I needed to go to school, and she went to that school. So I ended up enrolling there, and I actually graduated from college. I got a college degree in mortuary science. So I maintained it. I had to find my balance to live that life and still maintain my grades, because I knew if I wasn't maintaining my grades, my daddy wasn't paying my bills. So I had to, work hand in hand.
And now, at one point, you meet Magic.
Yeah, I met him in Atlanta through a mutual friend. I had met him in, where we went out to? We went to Magic City actually that night, and we was just hanging out, and we got to know each other, and it's like ever since then we was like together all the time.
Okay. And like, did you know from the gate, like, who he was and what he was doing, or was he just somebody you just kind of clicked with?
I mean, I knew he was a nigga that got some money. I knew that shit. Not trying to say it like that, but like I knew he was a nigga that had some money or whatever. But I knew he was from St. Louis, because I met him through like one of my pay brothers. You know what I'm saying? And he's passed away, but rest in peace, Pig. But that's who I met him through, Pig. And he was like, we gonna go over to my friend's house and pick my friend up. We gonna go out. So I'm like, okay, bet. So we went over there to his house, and he got ready, and we all rode in the car, and we went to Magic City. It was me, Magic, my homegirl Peaches. She was dating my brother Pig at the time, and it was another guy. And we just went to Magic City. So we in there just kicking it, and we kind of set it off, and ever since then we had, we really, from that day on, we was rocking it out.
What was Big Meech like back then, or partying with Big Meech?
I mean, I don't look at them like that. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, I don't view some people how the world views them. You get what I'm saying? And the things that they was doing it on a grander level, because it was a lot of them, but it's the same thing that we experienced in Detroit. And to me, I'm just hanging with my bros that's getting some money, and we having a good time.
And I think at one point you guys ended up at Diddy's house for New Year's?
Not as I was never at a Diddy house New Year's party. We was in Miami at a Diddy New Year's party.
Okay.
But it was just a regular party. You know what I'm saying? Like,
shit, you're hanging out with Diddy, you're at his house,
but
Meech. There's
but
probably other celebrities there.
But I don't look at them like that. Like, Diddy cool, but I'm never been like a fan of celebrities. You get what I'm saying? Like, for me, it's like I come from money. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it was just hanging out with my people, having a fun time. I didn't look at it like, oh wow, I'm with such and such, or we with such and such. It's like it was never a thing like that for me.
Sure, I get it.
You get what I'm saying? Like, people who, and I get that from people, like, wow, y'all did this, y'all did that, but it's like kind of a norm.
What was the party like back then?
The party life was way different. Like, just in general, nobody had phones like that. So like, when you were partying, you was enjoying the people around you. The dudes wasn't separate from the girls. Like, you'll go out these days, it'll be a whole section full of a whole bunch of dudes, and girls is over there. Like, the dudes interacted with the girls. You know what I'm saying? It was like everybody enjoyed the time. It wasn't no phone trying to video record, nothing. We didn't have all of that. So you really had a genuine time. And if you was a female and you around, and you just popping champagne all night, smoking as much weed as you want, eating whatever you want to eat, yeah, girls and all them gonna have a good time, because everything free.
Was that your only time partying with Diddy at his house? Or?
I mean, he used to be around, but like I said, like, that was normal. Celebrities was around all the time back in them days. Like, that was the norm. Like, you gonna see Diddy, Usher, Jermaine Dupri, whoever else to pop in, like, everybody partied together. So, like I said, times back then was way different than how they are now.
For sure. Things are definitely different, man.
Most definitely different. The whole culture's different.
Culture's different. The cameras.
Yeah, it's like nobody, even with the, I don't know. It's just back then, you know how guys used to want the good looking girl that was like the good girl persona, or dudes really didn't want to be around the raunchy and the ratchet. It changed. Like I guess now, like we used to take pride in being like carrying ourselves like ladies, you know, but these days, I mean, shit, the girls, shit, they out here like the dudes.
Damn.
You know, it's just a lot different.
Okay. Now, I guess at one point Magic bought you a mansion?
I don't say it's a mansion. It was a nice house. It was. It was a present. It was a nice house out here in the suburbs of Atlanta. I'm not gonna say it was a mansion, my definition of mansion, but for it to be 20 years old with a what was it, a 5-bedroom house, 4 or 5-bedroom house, like new construction back then, it was nice. So
Damn.
yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, so you had your dad, and then you had your
yeah,
boyfriend.
that was the. Let me tell you, that was a good part about it. But my daddy wasn't with the bullshit, because when I got with Magic and my dad seen him doing all that, he told me like when it was time for me to move, like I moved out my apartment and my dad had me to move in the house. He's like, I'm letting you know now. So he got you, right? I'm like, yeah, he got me. He was like, all right now, don't come calling me, ask me for shit, which I know he was lying, but it's like my life, he passed me over, you know? To where I was his responsibility, but not his responsibility like that.
Did he? I mean, was he okay with you hooking up with a dude who was hustling?
Yeah, he respected him as a man. My daddy was a hustler. You know, it wasn't a fact of what he did, his line of work. It was the type of person and the character that he had. And him and my dad got along real good. My dad liked him a lot.
Well, I believe in May 2005
Mm-hmm.
is when his house gets raided.
My house got raided. He was at my
Your house got raided.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yep.
he was the first guy that they raided for BMF. Is that correct?
Yeah, he had an indictment that was separate. He wasn't on that indictment. He was on an indictment out of St. Louis. On his own indictment with people that was from there.
First, right?
But he was the first one who really got indicted. Like I said, it wasn't with them. It was separate. But the first one out the crew, yeah, he was like the first one to get in trouble.
Okay. And now, they raided his house first, or they raided your house
They
first?
raided a house in They did it like the same time. A house he had in St. Louis, they raided it, and then they raided my house in Atlanta. He was at my house in Atlanta when they got raided.
Okay. Now, this goes down, and what are you going through, and what are you thinking at the time?
Well, at the time, I was 3 months pregnant, so a lot of things was going through because he was on a run. So really, I knew that day would come, but I didn't think it was gonna come as fast as it did. You know, because everything was pretty much going smooth. So I never thought that it was gonna happen like that. Let me put it that way.
So I seen that when they raided your house, they had your house surrounded.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what all happened with that?
Well, we was in the bed asleep, and he had company. His people were in town, and they was banging on our bedroom door, like boom, 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 boom. So I'm like, what the hell you banging on the door like that for? But when he banged at the door, he just like bust through the door. That's how I knew it was something. So we hop up out the bed, like, what's going on? He's like, the police outside. And I'm like, what police? He like, yo, the real police. So when I looked out the window, we seen the U.S. Marshal Fugitive Task Force, you know, they little vests on, and they had the house around it. So I'm like, damn. So we sitting there thinking, in my mind, we already knew it was over, you know? So we like, damn. So we went threw some clothes on or whatever, and I called my dad. I called my mom, and she was with my dad, and I'm like, yo, the house getting ready, just to get him the heads up on what was going on, because he knew that Magic was on the run. So he like, did they come in the house? And I'm like, no. He was like, well, don't open the door because they don't have no search warrant yet. So they must have had gotten a tip that it was a fugitive that they were looking for in my residence, but it took them like an hour and some change to get the warrant to actually come into the house. So when they finally did come in, you know, I still was on the phone with my mom and dad, like, all right, they coming in. And I was like, I live in DeKalb County. Like, I was just letting them know. So if I was to get arrested, they know where I'm at. So when the police raided the house, I had threw my arms up and I told them I was pregnant. not to throw me on the ground. Prior to them coming in, Magic had went into this little attic spot, like up in the attic in the house. So when they cleared the house out and they cleared us all in the house and they asking me like, yo, who's in the house? I'm like, I don't know. I was asleep. Like, I don't know who's here or whatever. And they showed me a picture of him like, where is he? And I'm like, I don't know. So when they took us outside, they had us all outside when they searched the house, and they finally had apprehended him or whatever. And then they arrested me too, because it was weed in the house, and the house was in my name, so I ended up going to jail too on a weed charge.
For weed? Wow.
That's just because they wanted to be petty. They knew I was pregnant. You know what I'm saying? They had him, but the case ended up getting thrown out because when I went back to court, I was like 7 months pregnant. I told the judge, like, it wasn't even an ounce of weed, and I don't even smoke, and I was pregnant. So they ended up throwing the case out, but they just do a lot of things for inconvenience and to be petty.
Yeah, damn. Okay, now, you said the indictment was in St. Louis?
Yeah, it was out of St. Louis.
Okay, so they sent him to St. Louis, I take it?
Mm-hmm. And he fought his case there, and he ended up taking a plea for 19 and a half years.
19 and a half years.
Yeah, that's what he pleaded out to.
Man, okay. That's a lot of time.
Shit, but when you're doing them type of crimes, you know what type of time come with it. So he was just the type of person that he knew what he was doing. He gonna take his lick on the chin and keep it to pushing. So he pleaded out to 19 and a half years.
I know you guys had a lot of good times. You spent a lot of money, a lot of fun, man. How did it feel, or what did you think when he got that sentence?
I felt bad because you got to think about it. When he got sentenced, I just had my baby. So it's like, damn, like, my son not going to see his daddy. Because in the feds, before they changed all these laws and stuff, usually when you got 20 years, you do 17 off of 20. So I was like, damn, like, he not going to physically be home with my son until he's like 17 years old. But I looked at the positive side of things, and, they got visitation and things like that. So I was going to make sure he still had a relationship with his father. Regardless of where he was at, I was going to be there to hold him down.
So you guys were still going all the way to St. Louis to see him?
Yeah, I was traveling back and forth to St. Louis while I was pregnant. And then when I had the baby, I took him to see the baby. He was in the county for a minute. So yeah, I was traveling back and forth pregnant and with an infant, a newborn.
Now, in 2007, Southwest T and Big Meech, they plead guilty to running a criminal enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like at the time?
It is what it is. Everybody was going to jail, so everybody knew what was going to happen. I mean, that's just the lifestyle that you live. You know what I'm saying? And the consequences that come behind it. Shit, everybody was going to jail.
That was pretty much the end of BMF at the time.
Yeah, everybody was in jail. Was nobody left. Everybody was in prison. Doing significant amount of time. Like, mostly everybody got at least 10 years.
Now, you still in Atlanta at this time, or
no? I moved back to Detroit. When Magic went to jail, I moved back to Detroit. I had my son in Detroit. I didn't stay in Atlanta. So when he went to jail, the next day after they raided my house, I moved back home.
What made you move back home?
My daddy made me come home. That was the agreement that they had. It was no point in me being in Atlanta pregnant when I can go be with my family in Detroit.
Okay. And now, I mean, I guess at one point Magic passes away in jail?
Yeah, he passed away in September 2006 from complications with his asthma. He passed away September.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
That's rough, man. And I mean, was it the jail's fault that it happened, or it's just one of those
it's always
things?
the prison fault. If you ever did time in federal prison, they don't give a damn about you. Their healthcare sucks. When I was in prison, I seen so many women get sick, and we've been standing up by count before, and the lady then passed out and hit her head on the bunk bed. It's like steel, everything in there steel. And when she fell, the officers like, y'all keep an eye on her. Like, they didn't call no medical attention or nothing. Like, them people don't care about you in jail.
Damn. Okay. So after Magic passes away, you meet a guy called JT.
I met him through a friend, a mutual friend that I have. His name was Jay. And we was just cool or whatever, you know. He was cool. But I met him through a mutual acquaintance, but we ended up getting tight. And he came to Detroit and he see kind of how I moved around and the type of people that I deal with. So he propositioned me with something. You know, he wanted to start sending some stuff down there, some, you know, cocaine down there to sell. And I kind of knew the people there. So it was kind of easy for him because he didn't have to do nothing. You know, we started having our little grooving for a little while when he was sending stuff to Detroit.
Okay. And I mean, I guess you probably become one of his main people that he's working with.
I mean, I was the person he went through because I was from Detroit. So, yeah, I was the person in Detroit that he dealt with. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I mean, I guess this was only supposed to be like a one-time thing?
No,
He gave you 30
it wasn't a
keys, just
one-time thing. It
one-time
was a
thing?
thing that he tried to test me and pull my card a little bit. It's like I said, he came there, we hung out. Used to come there a lot. And then he propositioned me with something like, oh, I'm going to send you something down there and let me see what you can do with it. You think you could do something with it? I'm like, yeah, just send it. And when he had somebody drop it off, it was like 30 kilos of cocaine. But for me, it wasn't hard because, like I told you, I come from that. So it was nothing for me. I just called my people and I gave it to them, and then they was finished and they gave me the money back. So for me, it was like I got money for really doing nothing. Because I wasn't out on the corner selling drugs. I wasn't sticking and moving in the streets. I was just giving it back to my people and I was collecting the money and giving it back to him. You know what I'm
Shit,
saying?
I bet he was pretty happy that it went that smoothly,
Shoot.
especially at first.
Yeah, he should have been happy. It went that smooth. Because anybody else, like, you know how much stuff be happening to people. You give somebody some stuff on consignment, people will be running off. Don't give you your money. You can't trust people. People might try to kill you because they owe you or got $1.5 million of your money. Stuff like that happened. So yeah, it was a real good situation for him.
So, I mean, how much were keys going for at that time?
It was a drought. You could sell keys for $36.5.
36.5, hold on, times 30? I mean, we're talking, that's over $1 million, right?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Look at you put your calculator out.
Times 30. $1,080,000. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, but all of it don't go to the one person. You know, you know, it don't see people be looking at the money like that, like, oh, it was $1 million. That's cool, but you got to think about it, right? Everybody put a point on something. You know what I'm saying? So if he getting it from his people, you know what I'm saying, the Mexicans or whatever, they giving it to him for a price, right? Then I'm gonna put something on it before that I give it to my people for, right? And then they gonna put up something on it to sell it to their people. So it's not like you're just collecting all that money. It's you putting a point on something and then you getting your cut or your percentage of that. That's how it works. So everybody get their little percentage off of that, which is cool because for me, like I said, I wasn't doing nothing. That's like if you my homie, right? Like you like my brother, right? And I know this guy. So I'm hitting you up like, all right, bro, I got blah, blah, blah. I'm going to give it to you. And I know you going to go do whatever you got to do and you going to give me the money back. I'm not dealing with the people you dealing with in the streets. I'm dealing with you. You know what I'm saying? Then I'm only dealing with him. So really, it's only me and the people I give it to. I don't know who they giving it to. They don't know where they getting it from. So for me, I felt like it was a good situation because I wasn't putting myself in harm's way. Let's put it that way.
You're making all this money now.
Mm-hmm.
And I would assume your friends probably aren't making this kind of money?
I really kept my business low key. Like I always dealt with men who have money. So Me driving Range Rover, me driving a Porsche truck, me driving them type of cars is not out of the norm for me. People will be used to me drive. I was driving nice cars when my daddy was getting his car. So for me, I wasn't out there like that. And the things that I have was not out of the normal. You get what I'm saying? So a lot of people didn't know what I was doing until I got in trouble. I don't put my business out there like that.
Okay. And I mean, I guess you did have a friend who wanted to get involved in things?
She did, but I didn't agree with it. You know what I'm saying? That was a conversation that her and Jay had. It had nothing to do with me. And I was never in agreement with it. That's why I was kind of confused on how the situation played out, because I wasn't the one that invited her to do anything, suggested that she do anything. I suggested that she don't do it. But I end up being the one that, take the fall for it.
Okay. And, I guess you used to look over her or kind of watch out for her?
Yeah, I used to look out for her. Like, she lived with me. At one point when she was going through hard times, I let her live with me for free. She wasn't paying no rent. I did a lot of nice stuff for that girl. A lot.
Damn.
And I knew she wasn't built like that. That's why I told her don't do it. But I guess desperate times, people do desperate things, because she was having some financial woes that she was going through. Her parents was going through a divorce. She wanted to help her mom. She had younger siblings, so I guess she looked at it as a way to make some quick money. And she really, I don't even think that she processed in her mind and knew what she was driving. Because I told her, like, when you drive like that, you drive with your life. Like, I meant that literally. Like, I wasn't playing. I meant that literally. When you drive with stuff like that on you, you're driving with your life. Something happened, your life can be gone like this. So I don't think she really knew or understood the whole aspect of things that I was telling her. But she ended up getting pulled over on the freeway when she was coming back from Chicago. When she got pulled over, first of all, she was speeding. Why are you speeding with 30 kilos of cocaine in the car? I don't know. But you were speeding in the left lane. You know how in the 2-lane highways, usually the people that's supposed to cruise or drive is on the right side, use the left side for passing. She was riding the left side because I watched the video and of her traffic stop, and it was just crazy because, for one, if I knew I'm driving with something illegal, the police was gonna get her a citation. He asked her, was it any tobacco, alcohol, whatever in the car? She said drugs or whatever. She said no. He said, well, is it okay if I search the car? She told him yes. Like, for me, I would have been like, no, why you want to search the car and I'm getting pulled over for speeding? I would have fought tooth and nail until they had to figure out something to search the car, but I'm not going to voluntarily let them search the car, And they end up finding the stash spot. They end up finding the drugs. She ended up cooperating on the side of the freeway. And what they did was they put the drugs back in the car. They put her in a police car. The officers drove the car. And she set it up to where I was supposed to meet her like nothing ever happened. So usually I just go to her apartment and pick up the car and I go about my business. But this particular day, unbeknownst to me, she was setting me up. So when I went over there, I already got popped. And when I went to get in the car, that she was driving, I don't know where all these police came from, but they surrounded the car and threw me on the ground. And then that's when I got arrested.
Damn. Okay. And now you're sitting in jail. Like, at what point do you figure out, like, oh shit, she
I knew it was her.
set me up?
I knew it was her when we was in the back of the police car and we had handcuffs and she got in the back of a Tahoe with no handcuffs. I knew then. It didn't take a rocket science to figure it out. Just by the way it happened, I knew it was her.
Okay. Now you're in jail. Did you get a bond?
Yeah, I got a bond. And I was out for maybe fighting my case for like 6 months or something like that. But in between that time, they had let Jay out. I was still in the county. They let him out because she didn't say any information on him. She only spoke on information in regards to me. So she didn't say, so they let him go. But in the midst of me going through my legal situation, like, just weird stuff was happening. Like, they raided my parents' house, a property of my father's. They raided one of my co-defendants' house. Like, stuff was just going on. So we kind of pretty much knew, because like I said, we not slow, that it was going to be indictment coming. That's when they indicted my father and everybody else that I was dealing with in Detroit.
Did your dad get indicted just based off of what happened with you?
Yeah, it was
Or
based
raided?
off of Jay cooperating with the police, telling on people that he dealt with. So my dad ended up getting indicted too. And I had two other co-defendants from Detroit that got indicted based off the information he gave them.
Jay starts cooperating too.
Mm-hmm.
So damn, everybody's cooperating. Did they try to get you to cooperate?
I mean, the police always do that as a scare tactic. Like, oh, you're going to go to jail for a long time. You're never going to see your kid. But I'm not talking to no people. And let me tell you something. When you get with the feds, it don't matter if you'll cooperate or not. You're still going to jail. Nobody walks away scot-free. Your sentence might get reduced from what you're originally looking at, but you're going to jail. It's just a given fact. Like, you're going to jail. So a lot of times you might as well just take your lick. If you look at the federal conviction rate, majority of people take pleas. Because it's like, once they got you, they got your ass. And when they get you, they be having the information they need. So you'll be a damn fool to try to fight with them. You just kind of try to work your best with your lawyer, trying to negotiate the lowest sentences you can get possible.
How much did your friend? How much did her sentence get reduced?
Oh, see, like, she would have got the same charge as me. Like, I had felon conspiracy to distribute 5 kilos or more of cocaine, which the minimum, because feds got guidelines. The minimum you can get is 120 months, which is 10 years. So she was looking at 10 years, the minimum, like I was. And she ended up doing like some type of boot camp and then was in a halfway house. That's all she got. She ain't get no lengthy sentence. I think it was like 3 years, but she didn't do no 3 years because she had the boot camp thing and halfway house.
Well, what about JT?
He ended up getting 13 years.
Still got 13 years.
Mm-hmm. And he probably was looking at like 20 something and ended up getting 13. Mm-hmm.
Damn. Okay.
So, I told you everybody still go to jail.
Everybody's still going to jail, man. What was their initial offer for you? What were the initial numbers they were throwing you?
It was 10 years because I never had got in trouble a day in my life. So I just took the 10 because I couldn't get no less than that. So I was cool with the 10 because I couldn't get no less than 10 years. Because that federal, they got guidelines. And for that charge, my minimum was 120 months to life. But I never got in trouble or nothing before. It was my first time getting in trouble, so I took the 10.
Now, you turn yourself in to do your 10 years. And what's that like for you? What's that initial first day you got to turn yourself in?
I know it might sound weird, but I actually felt relieved. Because it's like, when you going through legal things in life, like, especially when you fighting for your life, it's just like, I woke up every day with butterflies. I was just stressed the hell out, me having to leave my son, and if you think about it, it don't seem that how it was now, but 10 years seems so freaking far away. When you going to turn yourself, you're like, God damn, 10 years, this feel like you're going to be gone for half your life, But when I first turned, I just felt a sense of relief because I knew that chapter of my life was closed, like it was over. I had to worry, I knew I had my time, I knew what was in front of me, like it was over. So I felt a sense of peace and relief, to be honest with you. Because I knew I could just start my journey and then I come home on a fresh start,
Did you know you were done selling drugs at that point?
Hell yeah. Because to me, I know now, but to me, I don't feel like I was selling drugs. I just felt like I was just looking out for my people. I'm just being honest, because it's not like I was on a block or on a corner. I just facilitated some shit. So it's like, dropped off and I picked up and I got my cut. You get what I'm saying? So it's like easy. But I mean, I know the law now. So I know I was conspiring with people to do a crime. But to me, I was like, I really ain't do nothing. I just put my people on.
So looking back on everything, how do you feel about it? What would you change, or would you change anything?
I would change a lot if I can go back. And I would change making better decisions, watching the people that you have around you. Because sometimes it be the closest people to you that'll backstab you. I used to be partying, smoking, and drinking so much. Now with a sober mind, I can recollect on things and like see things I didn't see because my mind was clouded with weed, liquor. I was blinded to a lot of things that probably would have saved me a lot of heartache in the long run. But I lost a lot living that life, and hell no, wasn't none of that shit worth it. I lost my father when I was in prison. I couldn't go to his funeral. My dad had got sick in jail and sick in prison, and my family hid it from me because they didn't want to upset me because it wasn't nothing I could do about it. So I really didn't know the severity of how sick my daddy was until he was damn near. He came home. When he came home on a compassionate release, I knew he had to be sick. Because in the feds, the only time they release you is when you have a debilitating disease that progressively gets worse and they know it's not going to get better. And they'll file some paperwork for you to go home, be with your family because they don't want to be responsible for you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I lost my father. I couldn't go to my daddy's funeral. After I came home, mind you, I was gone all this time, almost 8 years, to come home, and 5 years later I have to bury my mom. It's just like I lost my son, father in prison. I had to be away from my son for almost 8 years. I left him when he was 3. I came home, he was about to turn 11. So a lot of that shit wasn't worth it. Now that I'm older and I'm in a different space in life, I value and cherish so many different things, just like being around my family, spending time with my son. Like, I don't have to go out. Like, I'm not even a partier. I don't go to parties. I don't really go to clubs unless I have to. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not a party person. Like, when I was in prison all that time, I used to be like, ooh, like, I used to dream. Like, I can't wait. Just living in a bunk or cube with somebody all them years, sharing a hard-ass bunk bed. Sometimes you're on the top. Sometimes you're on the bottom. It was just like, just living in that type of environment. I used to always tell myself, like, I just can't wait to get my own place. And when I get my own place, I'm going to be at home. I'm going to chill. I'm going to do this. And it's like I'm a homebody because I lived in chaos for so long. I enjoy my quiet and my peace. People don't understand, like, I think I suffer maybe from PTSD a little bit, just from the trauma that I've been through in life. And a lot of us, we don't go through therapy. We don't go to counseling. So it's kind of like you take that shit on, you take that shit and you got to keep it to pushing. Because who you going to dump your emotions on when everybody going through something? So it's like you hold a lot of stuff in. And for me, that whole life experience changed my life. Like, I never go back to the streets. I did everything in my power and sacrificed everything I did when I came home so my son would never know nothing about that life. And I'm grateful for my mom because she did a great job with my son, and all I had to do was pick up where she left off. My son is at college, plays for the University of South Carolina. He on a full ride scholarship. He a true freshman. Like, he's doing great. And I hate, like, now that he's getting older, like, he's starting to realize who his family really is. You get what I'm saying? Like, people be saying stuff about his dad now. Like, now that show is out, you know what I'm saying? Like, people saying stuff about his daddy now. And even at his school, like, the coaches knew that they don't treat me different. It's like, it's all love. But they even knew I went to prison. And it's like, damn. It's like I learned now to embrace it because I try to utilize my platform to help people not make the same mistake I've done. And I don't live that life no more. But it's like I feel kind of bad. Like, damn, like, regardless of how hard I tried, he can't help who his parents is. And he loves us to death. My son not embarrassed about nothing, but it's still like, I hate that people even have to ask him that or people bring that up to him. Yeah, so now that the little St. Louis part of the show is how it is, and people who know, they know, and it's just like, damn, So I think he don't look at it as a bad thing, but it's still like our past is still carrying over into his life in a way.
The kids probably love it.
No, the kids do, but my son is like an introvert. Like when I did that episode of Trap Queens, I did that episode of the American Gangster Trap Queens. I did that show, and he wouldn't even watch it. His friends was posting it on Instagram because his friends always like, look at my dukes, da 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 da. Like they was posting. He wouldn't watch it. He sat and watched it with me for the first time after it was already out, and he was just looking. They had his dad on there and stuff like that, but that was the first time he watched it.
Damn.
Like he wouldn't even watch it at first.
Damn.
Like he's just like a cool, laid back type of person,
Yep. Okay. Well, is there any other stories or anything you'd like to share? Maybe something untold or something you haven't talked about before.
I just feel like, when people talk to me, it's always about my story and what happened up until this point, but people never discuss things on how hard that shit was coming home being a convicted felon. People look at the shit like, oh, you did this, you did that, but they don't never talk about the hard part. Like me used to live in a certain lifestyle to me coming home with absolutely nothing, not a dollar to my name. For me getting my first job at a car dealership at the age of 34, never worked a day in my life. For me grinding it out at that job, working 12 hours a day to get me and my son our first apartment. For me getting my first apartment on house arrest to sleeping on air mattresses until I was able to get a bedroom set, which I got my son's bedroom set first. I was still sleeping on an air mattress. So people be looking at it like talking to me about my past, but shit, I want people to know that I'm the same as them. Those coming home. Yeah, I was blessed to be able to have a platform or a way to tell my story, which was beneficial to me monetarily. And I had a support system, so my struggle wasn't as hard as some, but being a felon in today's society and having that F on your chest, that's for life. It messes up so many things. You trying to get an apartment, you trying to get certain jobs, like that shit follows you for the rest of your life. So people really need to think hard about the decisions that they make in life, because one bad decision can f your life up forever. It's like a lot of people glorify that shit. Oh, nah, man. I bet you if you talk to anybody that was getting some real money in the streets, I don't care who they is, they took more L's than wins. They took way more losses than they did wins. That shit be short-lived. That shit be temporary. Living that life like that don't last long. And it ends in two places. Prison or in the dirt, in the ground. Not worth it.
Well, that's what it is. For sure. Well, Brandi, I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too.
Definitely, man. Got a dope story, wild story, a story that you persevered through.
Exactly.
A lot of struggles, man. Glad to see you doing good out of jail.
Thank
Your son's
you.
doing good.
Thank you.
That's what's up, man. It's definitely a story of of anybody can make it, man.
Anybody, let me tell you, anybody can make it. You just gotta believe in yourself. If you believe in yourself, you have endless possibilities of things that you want to achieve in your life. And you don't let your past define your future. That's what people got to understand too, because there's so many people I meet that just complain like, oh, I can't. Like, yes, you can. And I've been that I can't person at one point in my life. I ain't gonna lie. That was me at one point. But you just got to find your thing, or what you enjoy doing. Because everybody can be an entrepreneur these days. But like I said, life as a felon, that shit hard, especially being on probation. It's like you free, but you ain't free. You still tiptoeing around. They still got the power to snatch your ass up and put you back in jail again. You know, so it's just like, for those who have endured prison or endured challenges in their life, like, I give them credit, especially if they was able to push through and be successful, because that shit is mentally challenging. Like, it's hard on your mental, emotional, everything. That lifestyle, it's just not worth it.
Well, that's what it is. Once again, I appreciate you
Thank you.
taking your time.
Thank you. I appreciate you
problem.
reaching out. You have a good one.
You too. What's up? This is Cam Capone. We got more content like this coming soon, so hit that like button, subscribe, and stay locked in to Cam Capone News.